Greetings, welcome to Throttle Alpha. Call it the most debated bike in the market. Love it or hate it. Today we'll be diving deep to know the good and the bad of the KPR 150. This bike had a growing number of sales within the past 2 years or so, and many are still waiting to lay their hands on this budget-friendly machine. We will check the pros and cons of this bike in 5 sections throughout this video. Let's check the KPR out. Starting with the pros of this bike. The number one factor that makes this bike very fast and agile would be its engine. The massive torque and power delivery makes this bike very fast on the street. And this bike features a vertical single-cylinder liquid-cooled 6-speed 150cc engine and produces about 14 Nm of torque and 14.8 horsepower. And the torque kicks in right when you twist the pedal. You can see it accelerating right from the start. And we pulled off a 0 to 100 test in high revs and got effective results. The motorcycle managed to touch 100 in about 14 seconds in high revs and had no heating issues whatsoever. We managed to touch a top speed of around 120 km per hour, but you can expect to get to 130. And the mileage depends upon a lot of factors, but we managed to pull off a mileage of about 30 to 35 km per liter in the city and highway both. The second positive would be the design. The bike features a 16-liter fuel tank, a comfortable rider and pillion seat, a sporty cluster gauge that shows every information that you need, a gear indicator, a fuel indicator, speedometer, odometer, and you can even change the color of the display. This even has a clock and the cockpit looks beautiful at night. And thanks to its heavy weight of 150 kilograms and perfect aerodynamics which keeps the bike very steady during high speeds. All the ergonomics fits in on the sportier side. The part divided handlebar might get a little uncomfortable at times. The indicators work perfectly and the LED tail light too is very bright from a distance. And the ride height is about 775mm, which is perfect to cruise around with. The third positive and one of the most important points for this bike is the projection headlight. This was the first bike in this country to come up with a clear and accurate projection light, and this covers a lot of distance. The headlight is mainly powered by a 3000 lumens LED light, and the day-making LEDs too make a bold statement. I mean, everything fits in the right place whenever the headlights are turned on, and during the night time the visuals are very perfect. The lights aren't harsh on the eyes and the high and low beams falls and is calibrated in the right place, as you can see on the demonstration here. Jumping to the next positive, the radiator guard. Not many sports bike in this segment or even in the greater segments comes with a radiator guard. So this mainly barricades dusts and wind blast particles that might damage the radiator. So this is a very helpful material for the bike. Well, the braking is considered to be a pro and a con, both for the bike. The stopping power is quite adequate for what it is, but the braking does lack instant bite and is rather on the progressive side. The front brakes are of 300mm. But there's an issue. The front and the rear brake pads decay the discs after you ride the bike for a period of time. It's better to go for aftermarket brake pads if you can. That way the discs won't decay. And you also have a 220mm rear disc to back you up. If we are to talk about the greatest negative of this bike has a very short turning radius. The bike mainly takes up a lot of space while turning. This is mainly because of the 3-part handlebar, which is unable to make complete turns. This can be stated as the greatest disadvantage for this bike because it makes it very hard to cruise around with in the city. There is no certain solution for this problem, but during high-speed runs, this is very helpful. The second negative in my books would be the exhaust note, which is very annoying to hear. And here's a demo of how it sounds. While cruising in high revs, the exhaust notes are very unpleasant to hear. You can go for an aftermarket exhaust. Jumping to the next negative, it would be the fuel indicator. Whenever the tank has fuel below 4 to 5 liters, the fuel indicator misreads. This is mainly because of the sensor position. The indicator would suddenly show that the tank is full and then suddenly drop to 0. We're hoping that the new KPR wouldn't have the same issue. Moving on to the next issue with this bike, this would be the R&D flaws involved with this. Firstly, coming to the side view mirrors, the mirror clamps are of very poor quality. Whenever you're riding very fast, the mirror seems to be moving and vibrating. The best way to overcome this problem would be to go for an aftermarket mirror setup. And even the viewing angles for these mirrors aren't that good. And secondly, jumping to the footrest position. In context with the handlebar, the foot position is very perpendicular, and in extensive and long rides, this stresses out your foot and ankle. And in terms of continuous shifting and moving along with the bike, this is not very comfortable. I wish they could come up with a better footrest position. And the gear shifting too initially for this bike was very hard. After riding it for 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers, the shifting got better. And the drive chain too is an issue. The chain gets loose often. It's better to keep the chain loose and maintain proper gear to rev ratios. And another problem would be the throttle twist. In comparison to other sports bikes, the throttle twist is hard, though things got better for the version 2. The next issue would be the tires. The tires have very poor dust and wet grip, and the 120 section rear tires aren't up to the mark in context of the power of this bike. The front tires are of 90 sections, and this too has poor wet and dust grip. Going for aftermarket tires would be the best call if you want to ride this bike for a longer period of time. The switch materials are perfect, but many users complained about the brake and clutch levers. They seem to fade in color very fast, and a lot of users complained with the clutch and brake levers breaking. So, the solution would be aftermarket levers. The stock suspension setup for this bike sits in the book of the pro and the con. Being so, a lot of users complained the suspension to be stiff. The negative factor above this would be riding in the city. The gigantic speed breakers and potholes can be a pain with the damping this suspension has. You can go for aftermarket suspension setup, but the positive factor with this suspension would be it helps the bike to maintain a higher Vmax, and the stiffer suspension setup helps the bike to corner in very high speeds. But I must say, with this suspension, there is no vibration in the body. However, you'll feel very confident while cruising in high speeds. So the final verdicts on the KPR. Well, in my books, the KPR makes perfect sense. For a price tag for below 2 lakhs, this bike is the perfect call. Well, why did we choose the version 1? The main question when it comes to the KPR is about durability and reliability. The test ride unit that we chose was ridden over 2 years and has an odometer count of over 12,000 kilometers. We chose the version 1 over the version 2 because we wanted to stick to the original. The version 2 has a refined engine, better top speed, better acceleration, firmer suspension, but still when it comes to the KPR, it has the same ergonomics. So for everything packed in together, and if you keep the cons aside, the KPR isn't a deal breaker. We'll come up with a review for the KPR 165R very soon. Till then, signing out.